Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to talk dirty for a moment. Diarrhea diapers, rotten fish remains, puffed up crimson tampons, and discarded syringes with mysterious liquid inside. These are among the litter I've witnessed rummaging on the streets, living in Southeast Asia for the past 12 years. And my solution to that was participating in cleanup events. And in fact, this was the very first cleanup spot I ever cleaned up. But fast forward 6 years later, I'm in Hanoi, Vietnam, carrying out the same practices. But then I began to feel like Sisyphus rolling a giant boulder uphill, except just with trash. Every time I obliterated trash from the ground, they would reappear just the same. My efforts felt futile. But ladies and gentlemen, today I am here to present to you why the future of environmental remediation will now begin with data science. Here at the same time of feeling futile, I read the book Everybody Lies, which is a book about the various applications of data science. Now initially, I always thought data science was a tool that can help me calculate my odds of getting into the NBA. But now I realize that it can be applied to various fields, including environmental remediation. Then reading this book, I became propelled to start a research project using environmental and data science. I wanted to investigate consumers' motives behind using plastic bags and how we could provide a solution to that. And where else is it better to start than the pillar of plastic consumption in Vietnam, local wet markets. Now, to do this project, I reached out to various community partners. And together, we read several articles, journal articles, you call it theses, and everything you can possibly find on the internet about research methodology, implementation methodology, and a lot of scientific jargon and technical concepts. And together, we were able to devise a three-part approach in investigating consumers' unsustainable behaviors at Hanoi wet markets. The very first part of our study is called a stated preference survey. For all the consumers we saw, we presented them with a scenario that they are shopping at the wet market looking for vegetables from a 40-year-old man. Now you might be thinking this is oddly specific. Well, it is because it's a real vendor that we found. So using this tool, we were able to give them the 4 options and ultimately investigate their preferences out of these 4 options. The results were astonishing. Now let's envision a pie. What do you think this proportion of the pie represents? The people who prefer plastic bags, the people who prefer paper bags, the people who prefer tote bags? Now, unfortunately, it's only the people that actually wash their hands after using the toilet. But back to the point, from this study, we were able to find that only 9.5% of the total consumers we surveyed preferred plastic bags, and the rest all eco-friendly alternatives. So what can we take on from this research project? Well, we discovered that 91% of the people were already using or were willing to use eco-friendly alternatives. And in addition, when we used statistical operations, we found that the biggest factor influencing consumers' decisions was the functionality, which was represented by the weight that the bag could hold. The second part of the study is called an A/B test. It's where we had market A and market B, which are 2 homogeneous wet markets. And from each market, we recruited 4 vegetable vendors. Now here, what we did was we provided them with 50 paper bags per day. But then the twist is that in market A, these paper bags were being sold at their retail price by the vendors, whereas in market B, they were given out by the vendors for free. So with this study, we wanted to see if price was a very important factor for the eco-friendly alternatives. And the results, let's envision 2 bars for market A and market B. Remember, market A is when it is sold at the retail price. We see a small increase, a small percentage of the people that actually bought these paper bags for its retail price. Whereas in market B, this number is huge. We see that in market A, there was an 8% acceptance rate for the paper bag alternatives. Whereas in market B, that was a 95% acceptance rate. Now, to fellow students, to give you an idea, at market A, the likelihood of someone buying a paper bag is the same likelihood of you getting into Duke University, Brown University, Duke University, and Dartmouth College. And the last part of our study is called the Google Trends analysis. Now, Google Trends is a very interesting tool because it allows us to examine the total volume of searches for a particular term and a phrase. And as you can see here, with this example, I was looking up how to be funny in Vietnam from 2021 to 2022. Now, I definitely know I contributed to that upward surge, but let's take it a step back and get it back to our environmental context. Now, with our team, we aggregated a lot of different terms like how to recycle, why we should recycle, where to recycle plastics, and together we were able to create an awareness chart of such terms. Now, it might look a bit complicated at first, but I think we get the point that it is increasing. But then, how is it increasing? Well, when we use data science operations and basic statistic operations, we found that the awareness of the consumers for plastic-related search terms and recycling was increasing exponentially. So now, what is the essence of using data science for an environmental context? Well, had I not done this project, I would have clung to my misconception that increased education would be the behavior-changing solution. But I was wrong. In this study, we found that awareness wasn't the problem. It was increasing exponentially. We also found that accessibility of eco-friendly alternatives were not the problem. In fact, it was price and the functionality. And last, we also found that it wasn't the willingness of the consumers. 91% of the consumers were already using or were willing to adopt eco-friendly alternatives. But, ladies and gentlemen, today, the project is something that isn't really that important of today's message. Is that we must start using data to observe where we live, our Earth. But it's not the data of the Earth we must observe. It's the data of the stakeholders of Earth. It is us. For example, let's say there has been an investigation saying that the ozone layer would be completely depleted in 52 years. Sure, that is a very cool insight. But what if the government enacts a law saying that the methane contaminants of our farts are so toxic that it is illegal to fart? Would any of us really abide by that law? Well, I wouldn't. So, of course, this is a very drastic example, but using the demands, the data that show the demands of the consumers, the stakeholders of Earth, we're able to understand our needs and present environmental policies that will not only reduce plastic use, but ultimately contribute to a global change in reducing global warming and making the world a better place. Thank you.